My name's Janelle, and I am a pharmacy graduate from King's College London. I know they say you shouldn't really define yourself by your job, but I guess that's the easiest way to present myself, I guess. So actually, pharmacy was never really like my first choice, This is something that not many people know about me. But I was training to be a professional classical violinist before I went into the pharmacy world. So it was quite a big shift in like career, life, way of thinking, everything, like the people I was around. Yeah, it was a huge difference. So it was worlds apart. I mean, when I came into pharmacy, I just quickly realized that I knew absolutely nothing about the profession. I didn't know what I was doing. Admitted that very frankly, very early on. But it's been a huge learning curve. And, it's a 4-year degree and I just loved it. It was hard at first, and I think, as with everything new that you try, you have struggles, don't you? And like you work hard to overcome them. You learn from people, all of this. But I think it's been very rewarding, and it's definitely something I would like to be doing more in the future. And I think it's really definitely helped me to find parts of myself that I never thought I would, like, say, had I stayed in music. So I'm quite fascinated by what people mean when they say, being creative within a structure. Science is very literally structured. It's all about evidence and facts, and but I think a friend said something to me very recently. Actually congratulated me on my book, which was really sweet. He said that there isn't enough room to be creative in pharmacy, and there aren't enough opportunities to do that. And I was like, you know what, I completely agree, and I never really thought about it before. I just think that extra effort to make something of whatever you have, I think, and just discovering this whole range of opportunities that you never really thought were possible. Like, say, with my book, Let Sleeping Pharmacists Lie, I just thought, like, I've met so many interesting patients and people over the years in my work experience and all this within different sectors of pharmacy that I've had the privilege to experience. I thought, you know what, I just want to kind of pay tribute to them by putting this book together. So it's like, it's supposed to be funny and quite lighthearted, just give you a few laughs. It's quite short. It's just a series of stories and my experiences, and it's almost like diary entries in a way. I think that's just, it's just a really nice way to kind of show like snapshots of my life in pharmacy. I know I haven't been in it that long, so I'm still very much in the early stages. I've got so much to learn, but I think it's just a nice way of kind of showing people what it can be all about. If you look past the traditional like pill counting stereotypes, which I can get onto later. So yeah, I guess that's the whole creative side of it. I would say I'm a really creative person at heart, but I don't look it, because like I'm one of these people who don't really wear bright colors. I don't have a pixie haircut. I don't have 10 earrings, that kind of thing. I'm not like the stereotypical creative, I guess. But I think I'm just kind of a normal person, I guess. But I like to see different sides of things that people don't normally see. So that's where I guess I would pride myself on my creativity, if you can say it like that. I just like seeing the things that nobody really pays attention to, and just like putting my spin on them. Just like bringing out the things that we take for granted sometimes, So yeah, I guess that's my style, creative wise. Yeah. So I am the geek, I guess. I am the geek who listens to classical music, who wears loafers. So I think people describe me as preppy, I think. But I like to think I'm friendly. I get on with lots of people. I'm easy to talk to, I think. So yeah, I think that's what my friends would say about me. I've loved writing all my life. Like, that's always been a thing for me. So when I was growing up, I would submit these articles or like poems and things to like a children's newspaper, or like a like a newspaper that did a children's segment on writing, creative writing, and I would always submit these articles and things. And I was so I've always been passionate about writing, and I loved it. Like, through school, I started to discover things like Shakespeare and all of this, and I loved all of that. I mean, I still tutor in English literature as a part-time job for a bit of extra pocket money, In terms of writing a book, it was never a plan. Like, from the very beginning. Like, quite honestly, I finished exams, and then because of, well, current circumstances that we find ourselves in, I had lots and lots of time during lockdown, and I was spending much more time at home than I was used to, and I'm not one of these people who can sit still and do nothing. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna find a project that I can properly get my teeth into, just go nuts with, let my perfectionist self just go nuts. So I decided, you know what? And I was still in that pharmacy headspace, from revision and just coming off this high of, oh my God, I finished a 4-year degree and graduated. So I just wanted to do something to pay tribute to that. Because, like I was saying earlier, I mean, I think pharmacists and just the pharmacy profession in general is so underrated, I think it's slightly misunderstood in some ways. And there's a lot of stereotypes which don't always do the profession justice, I think. So I just wanted to do something that's relatable, funny, accessible, that hopefully lots of people will want to read. So something that can elevate the profile of the profession, I guess, in the media. Not to say that it's to glamorize it or anything, but I think just people should be aware, because pharmacists are they're capable of more things than we give them credit for, and they don't just stack shelves and pack medicine into boxes and put them in a little bag and label boxes, and that's it. There's a lot more to it, as I discovered over my 4 years at uni. So yeah, I just hope that my book is a step in that direction. So Let Sleeping Pharmacists Lie, that's the title. It's supposed to be lighthearted and funny. It's quite a short read, so it's just something you can take on the train or when you're commuting. Essentially, it's a collection of just funny anecdotes from my time as a pharmacy student and in work experience, and just like my experience of this business, really, and also some opinions that I have on the healthcare sector that may or may not be so popular, just things that I've never had a chance to say, but things of just that I've spent some time thinking about, I think. So the design of the book, everything was kind of a one-man band. So I did everything from start to finish because I felt that I wanted to go the self-publishing route. Thought that was the best for me because I don't do this full time, and this was just a personal project, so I didn't really know where it was going to go, and I just wanted to see what I could do by myself, really. So I challenged myself. I wrote the first drafts, I did all my editing, everything. I mean, looking back now, I probably should have hired an editor for that. It sells in paperback copy, paperback version on Amazon, so you could get that. Cover design, I designed everything myself as well. I took a while to think of a good title. I mean, that took me a long time. I just asked my friends and my partner. Oh my goodness. I probably talked the ear off about it. I was like, what should I go with? I need more title ideas. What do you think? Is this too cliched? So I just wanted to come up with something easy to remember, just simple, and I thought of Let Sleeping Dogs Lie. That's just So there's one chapter where I've talked about this really lovely elderly lady who I met in a pharmacy once. She was asthmatic, so she'd just been prescribed some inhalers. And sometimes when patients get prescribed things, they don't always get told how to use them. And I think healthcare professionals take it for granted sometimes that patients will just know what to do with their medicines instantly, And obviously inhalers are not the easiest of things to use. I mean, I'll admit I'm not exactly 100% with every kind of inhaler on the market. I know the basic principles, but if you gave me one like in my hand, I'd probably take a while to figure it out. And given that this lady was elderly, and this was the first time she'd handled anything like this, so she had no idea, and she walked into the pharmacy, and at the time she wanted to see the pharmacist. So I said, I'm really sorry, the pharmacist is busy right now. He was busy with another patient. So I said, is there anything I can help you with? So she said, well, I'm just having some trouble with these inhalers. So I said, okay, what's wrong? I mean, how can I help? She said, she was doing everything her doctor told her to do. She was using it twice a day, 2 puffs. So I thought, okay, everything sounds right. But she was still saying that her symptoms are still bad. She's still got this shortness of breath that she's really struggling. So I said, okay, can you just show me how you're using the inhalers? So this is where she took the cap off. And she just spritzed behind her ear on either side of her neck. I know it sounds like a cliche. She said, really? That really happens? And I was like, yeah, mom, that happens. So that was when I realized, oh my God, we can take so many things for granted sometimes. It's nuts. So I'm presuming the pharmacist eventually dealt with it with her. So I hope she's doing okay now, wherever she is. So there was another lady who had walked in on a Saturday. I used to work Saturday shifts. And lots of people would just come in to look at the makeup counters. And she was looking at some hair dye, and I worked with 2 other male colleagues. So I was the only girl, not female, on a Saturday. As soon as they just went back into the dispensary to just have a chat, she came over to the counter, asked me to come and look at some hair dyes with her. So I was like, okay, all right, I'll come and help. And then suddenly she just lowered her voice and said, can I ask you a lady question? So I was like, there it is. Okay. And then she just started describing like symptoms of thrush, which is like yeast infection. Very common, not really a big issue at all. And she said, you're the really only person I felt comfortable talking about this to. So is there anything I can buy to help me with it? I said, well, have you been to the doctors? And she said, no, I just wanted to, come here and see what I could do. And it was her first time having a thrush infection, so you can't really sell anything over the counter until they've had a confirmed diagnosis from their doctor. So I was like, I'm sorry, I can't sell you anything today, but thanks for coming to me. Please go to your doctor and then come back and like let us know how you get on like with your diagnosis. And she said, okay, thank you so much. And I just reassured her, made sure like, she knew it was very common, nothing to worry about, easily treated, lots of treatments out there. So she said, okay, thank you so much. She said, obviously she'd been worried for a long, long time. Yeah, you can tell that she wanted to get it off her chest, Yeah, you've phrased that really nicely. I think break the ice is a really good way of saying it, because there is actually something called white coat syndrome that I learned quite early on. So like when patients get their blood pressure tested in a clinic, they tend to have a slightly higher blood pressure than when they're doing it at home with just like a blood pressure monitor at home. And they call that white coat syndrome because obviously they're in this environment where they feel a bit nervous, a bit unsure themselves, and like, what's going to happen? So I think that actually translates into how people see healthcare professionals. And I think you've got it with that distance. And I think that's something that we can do something about, I think part of that is also awareness of what a pharmacist is actually doing, because in the generic way of the word, I think we think of pharmacists as these people who just kind of hide in the dispensary, right? Like putting medicine in a box and just kind of handing it to you, here you go. So I think there's a lot that can be done. I mean, there's one chapter where I talk about, so I had a friend who said, pharmacists need a massive ego boost generally, just as professionals. And I think that is so true, because like the most important parts of the profession are the least visible, and I've literally said that in the book. So like all the clinical work that they do, I don't think people actually know that much about, because we know that doctors do diagnosis. That's all very important, very necessary. But pharmacist thinks about, what drug is most suitable, say given your like past medical history, interacts with any medication that you're currently taking. And all that clinical work, I think it just goes a bit unnoticed, I guess. And then we cover legal work as well, didn't really think was a big part of the profession until I studied it, really. So I think that's another aspect of, the degree that I found very interesting. And I think it's just things that people don't necessarily see, but kind of take for granted because it just happens behind the scenes and everything flows smoothly. So I think closing that distance, what you said, that's really important. I think that's something that needs to be done. I think the role of pharmacists is changing hugely now, because we've got more pharmacists in, say, GP surgeries, pharmacists in A&E. There's all sorts that they're everywhere, they're spreading. I think that's great. Breaking the ice. Obviously I would love it if it got big, I would love to spread the word, not even for the sake of my own ego, but it's just more for just the profession in general. Like I said, I think it's a good start, I would say, to making the profession more accessible. I mean, if it improves the profile of pharmacists in the media, that would be nice. And even if it inspired people to study it, maybe, or like people who want to go into the profession, that would be amazing. Like that would be a huge thing. And yeah, I mean, I would absolutely encourage people who say want a bit of career advice or think of switching careers, maybe, you never know. So the book is kind of targeted to people like that as well. So like when I was deciding on my A levels at school and deciding on what to apply for at uni and what to do with my life, because obviously these are huge decisions when you're 17 years old and don't, let's be honest, don't really know what life is all about yet, and don't really even know what we want to do, you know. And I just think something like this from someone who's kind of dipped their toe in a little bit would have really helped me at the time. Like, I mean, careers brochures and uni open days are great, but I think we always relate better to a human experience. I've been blogging for just over 2 years now. Coming up to 3 actually. Wow. Like I said, I've always loved creative writing. I didn't really know much about blogging, but I'd heard about it from friends and just online. And I thought, you know what, that's quite cool, having like a platform on the internet that's mine to write about whatever I like, you know, anything. It was very much an experimental process, I think. So I started as a beauty blog, which is obviously a very saturated market. My focus was on like the tone, I think, and my voice. I think that was quite important to me very early on, as is with all my writing. So I think establishing that unique voice. And then I eventually branched out into things like humor and like opinions on like things I'd maybe seen on the train that day, or things people said to me that made me think, or just like whatever I was doing in my life at the time. So eventually it kind of morphed into this diary, I guess, of my life. And then someone gave me the idea of talking about pharmacy on there because, again, we go back to breaking that ice. Like when you do a Google search, no one really does that. There are, but it's just rare, you know, to have someone kind of blogging about it, I guess. So just to kind of make it more accessible. And I thought, you know what, that's a really good idea. And I'd had some opinions, so I started doing that. And then now it's just become like a platform for me to chat about whatever I fancy chatting. And I don't know where it's going to go next, but I'm really excited for that because I think that's just my own little personal journey and my personal platform that reflects a lot on how I've grown, I think, over the past 2 or 3 years. Like sometimes I go and read my posts from like when I first started, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. This is really, you know, moved on. And also I used to teach music part-time, just for a bit of pocket money, and I enjoy that teaching, that mentorship thing aspect of it, like you said. So I talk about that as well. So like I talk about working with my students. I have a post that's called why don't my students listen to me, that seems to be quite popular. And it's crazy because sometimes I think it's easy to get frustrated when you're teaching someone. You're like, oh, why don't you listen to me? I want the best for you. Why don't you realize it? But yeah, I think it just takes looking at it from a different angle, and I've really enjoyed that, you know, with my students, because obviously when you explain things a certain ways, as I'm sure you can relate to, they don't always understand because they don't have the exact experiences that you've had. So you can't take for granted that they're going to know what you're saying. Sometimes they'll, you know, be open with it and say, actually, I don't get it. But sometimes they'll pretend to understand, and you have to be able to get past that and encourage them to ask questions, because there are no stupid questions. And I think that's one of my biggest priorities, at least when I was teaching. So that's also another thing I talk about on my blog, which is quite nice. Not sure, because I think there are so many possibilities that I haven't even considered yet. Like the book, like say just 1 year ago, I didn't think I'd be writing a book of any kind. Like I didn't think I'd suddenly just throw myself into this whole self-publishing experience, which I have learned a lot from, by the way. You never know. I mean, I've always had this dream personally, maybe one day retiring and being able to do something creative full time, you know, just I would love that as a lifestyle. But for now, I think I'm definitely a career woman, and I would like to concentrate on that. Like, you know, I would love to work in the pharmaceutical industry. That's something I am passionate about doing. And from my year in industry, I just really enjoyed my experience, and that's something I would like to work in for now. So, I mean, who knows where that will take me. So, I mean, the creative stuff is always going to happen in the background. Like, I need something to unwind when I go home to keep me sane, like your podcast, I guess. That's definitely not going to stop. That's going to continue. Maybe it'll grow. Like, who knows what will happen with the book? You know, we never know, do we, really? I'm just very excited to see what comes my way and see what opportunities come my way. So, I mean, we might have new technological developments that open doors for new things, like new creative things that we never thought possible. So you never know. I've always thought of writing as being a bit like acting, you know. Like I've said, finding that voice is really important to me personally as the writer. It doesn't matter what I'm writing. I mean, I could be writing an ad on Gumtree for, but definitely when I was writing my dissertation at uni, that was a very different writing style. It was a very different voice. It was very structured. So that was a very different kind of structure. Like, I mean, I enjoyed it as well because, well, I had never really done anything like that. And I loved that scientific writing where I could just get into it and just really focus on that just different feel, I guess. But then when I'm writing about my blog, say, I just tend to write more freely. I can just sit somewhere with my laptop, make a cup of tea, and just start chatting. It's like as if I'm talking to a friend. But at the same time, it's slightly different because when you're writing, obviously you have to structure it slightly differently, like your prose, your language, everything. There's just a lot more creative freedom, I think. And well, firstly, I get to choose what I'm writing about, and I get to choose how I shape it, how I speak, how I come across to my readers. I like to think that they find me funny. So I think on my blog was a really good space for doing that. And I think it was just that different character that I'm playing, you know? And then my book, I would say, was probably the culmination of that. So I'm quite a cynical, sarcastic person. But I like to kind of express that with my humor, I guess. So I think my book is like the one place where I get to just let it run free, you know? So I think, yeah, definitely all writing is, I would say it's equal but different, you know, in the way that men and women are equal but different. I mean, I would say though, don't be afraid of trying new things that you might be scared of. I think this applies to, well, people who are doing creative things, or just anyone really, whether it's your career, I don't know, life decision, relationship, anything. I think just don't be afraid of trying something new, especially if it scares you. I think if it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. Do you know what I mean? And I think rejection is a huge part of being a writer as well, as I've heard with traditional publishing and all of this. So I think it's so important to just pick yourself up, because I think that is part of the game in so many parts of life, no matter what profession you choose, whether you're artistic or something more traditional, I guess. So I think what I would say is just take risks, don't be afraid. You know, life is short, you know, it's too short for us. Pick yourself up and just carry on. And just do what you enjoy, because that's what life is about, isn't it? If you don't get to do that at the end, then what's the point, really? It is available as a Kindle ebook and a paperback version on Amazon. So just head over to Amazon, type in "Let Sleeping Pharmacists Lie," and it should pop up. And I am very happy to send over a free sample if anybody would want that. Or you can have a look at the look inside feature that Amazon offers, and you'll get the first few pages like you found. Yeah, so please go check it out. I would love to know what you think, so please leave a review if you do check it out, and just be honest. You know, I just want to hear from people. That's what it's about, sharing at the end of the day. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it.